Hello and welcome to the final video I'll be doing about the Blue Planet, which is my top 10 list. So I do a top 10 list every time I watch a series. It's the top 10 best moments of the series, for me, in my opinion. So let's crack on. So at number 10, I've got the surfing sea snails. So this is a sequence that I remember quite well from Blue Planet. It's just kind of weird. You don't think of sea snails, A, eating meat. Obviously, they're scavenging this sequence, but they have to surf the waves together. It's kind of weird. The music kind of helps as well. It's quite a weird sequence, and it's quite fun. I just kind of like it. At number 9, I've got the sardine run. So the sardine run is one of the better bait ball sequences in the series, and my God, we got a lot of those. So this is great. I mean, the sardine run's something that we all know about. It's quite iconic. It's the most iconic bait ball stuff we get. You've got the same predators, you've got the dolphins, the sharks, the gannets, the seals, the brood as well. And they're all here. I think this is just one of the best examples of that we've had in any series. Nature's Great Events is the only one I think that's topped it. It gives you a very good in-depth look at the whole sequence. Every kind of predator gets its time to shine, and I think it's just great. I think it's a sequence that's been done a lot since, but I don't think a lot of series have done it better. At number 8, I've got the salmon shark. So the salmon shark's a species that you don't see very often, to be honest. This is the most in-depth look at them. Again, I think they popped up in Nature's Great Events very briefly. When you think of animals that eat salmon, you think of bears, orcas, eagles. You don't think of salmon sharks. So I'm glad that they got so much screen time in this series. They just look like they should be more iconic, I think, considering they look a lot like great white sharks, and in some ways kind of scarier. Their teeth are quite intimidating. It's kind of weird that we don't know as much about them, so that's quite good as well. Number 7, I've got the elephant seals. So this is a sequence that has been done a lot since, and had been done before once, and it kind of reminds you about why these sequences keep getting filmed. It's nothing new, it's just elephant seals fighting, but it's just a great look at it. I think it's really gory. Watching the blood actually stain the water is quite, it's quite grim. It's quite graphic. It's stuff you don't see a lot nowadays. And I think it just brings you home to why these are such iconic sequences, what they really are like, I think. It just was really good. And for some reason, it's not something I went into the series anticipating at all, because I didn't really remember it. But coming out of it, I think it's one of the sequences that will probably stay with me quite a lot from the series. So yeah, I really like that sequence. And number 6, I have the polar bears attacking belugas. So we have seen that subsequently in Seven Worlds, One Planet, but not like this. This is one pod of belugas trapped in this one pocket where they're able to breathe, and polar bears just attacking them. We see a polar bear take one of them. The actual polar bear diving into the water is quite good. The music helps, it's quite intimidating. It's just a really good sequence. It's not something you'd expect to see, and I think it's great. Again, I think the Frozen Seas episode run the risk of showing you stuff you see a lot of the time before, but I think this wasn't one of the sequences that I felt like I had seen a lot since, and yeah, I think it was pretty great. Number 5, I have quite a brief sequence, but a memorable one, and that is the sunfish and the gull. So this isn't something I thought I'd ever see. It's certainly not something I've seen since. That's a sunfish actually communicating with a gull to get it to peck parasites off it. It's not a sequence we linger on. It doesn't get a lot of screen time, but it really stayed with me. It was the 3rd episode I watched, and it stayed with me right the way through the rest of the series. It's pretty great. It's just a really interesting bit of footage, because you're never going to see it again. I don't think any series is going to try and replicate it, because it's just probably not that common. In number 4, I have the emperor penguins and the leopard seal. So this is something we've seen a lot of since, and we'd seen it before. But what I think makes this sequence really memorable is the amount of time you spend with the leopard seal. You see the leopard seal's perspective more than you get a lot of the time. Usually you just see the leopard seal as this villain. Here, you kind of feel like the leopard seal is this proper cunning predator. You see that side of it. You don't really get that. Usually it just says, oh, the penguins are trying to get away from the leopard seal. And to be honest, that is kind of what the point of the sequence is. But you really get a good sense of the skill that the leopard seal has in catching the penguins. So that was something I really appreciated, to be honest. The more I thought about it, I really appreciated it. The only thing I'll say about it is that you don't really see the leopard seal actually catching the penguins. But for me, the actual in-depth look you get at the leopard seal kind of counteracts that. So I'm quite happy with that. Number 3, I have the Cory Shearwaters. So the 3rd episode of Blue Planet has a lot of bait ball sequences, which I spent quite a lot of time moaning about. And to be honest, I think that was completely justified. There's far too many in the episode. However, this one, the final one of the episode, is brilliant. It's amazing. I mean, the filmmaking's great. The Cory Shearwaters really steal the scene. The fact that we see them mobbing off dolphins, tuna, all these other predators to get to the fish, and they're actually able to dive. Some of the shots of them swimming down are absolutely amazing. I'd say of the series, it's some of the best shots in the series. It really gave me an appreciation for an animal that I really would overlook. I mean, shearwaters don't really stand out to me too much, to be honest. Outside of the ones that you see in Scotland, you really appreciate them for their actual abilities as diving birds. Not something you see. You tend to think of gannets, but really these shearwaters put them to shame. So yeah, I really like that sequence. It's definitely going to stay with me quite a lot from this series. In an episode full of baitable sequences, this one stood out as being very good. Number two, I have the orcas hunting sea lions. So this is how we end the series, and it's a really weird but really great ending. It does a really good job of emotionally blackmailing you because you really think the sea lion pups are really cute, and then the orcas come and kill them, and it's pretty vicious to be honest. The slow motion look at that hunt is amazing. We'd seen it before in Trials of Life, but this gave a much more in-depth and intimate look at it. I think that was very, very good. It's really quite disturbing to be honest, watching the sea lion pup getting tossed around. I mean, it's dead and its innards are hanging out and it's still getting played around with. This you would not see that today. That would There are a number of sequences I just don't think they would ever film, and they would not show that part of the sequence. If they ever filmed that again, the orcas beaching themselves on the sea lions, they ain't going to show that. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Again, it just makes you feel something. It shows you how really horrible this whole sequence is for the sea lions. And again, you kind of appreciate the orcas as proper hunters. I think the series did a lot to really vilify orcas, to be honest. Orcas are almost always the villains in these kind of sequences, and it's kind of no wonder why, because they are ultimately really skilled predators. And yeah, it's a great sequence. It's definitely going to stay with me. It has stayed with me for years. It's one of the sequences of the series that I do think of when I think of the series, and it's pretty great. There is one more sequence that I think of more than that sequence, and it also features orcas, and it is the orcas hunting grey whales. So this was amazing. It really did change the game a lot with regards to orca sequences, because orcas hunting whales wasn't something that was filmed before. I mean, it was great. I mean, for one thing, it's been done so many times since. We've seen orcas hunting whales in so many series, whether it be Frozen Planet, The Hunt, uh, mammals just recently. It's been done so many times, and it is amazing though. It is really good. It's a really harrowing hunt. It's probably maybe not as disturbing as the sea lions, but it's also still pretty hard to watch. Watching that calf getting pretty much brutally killed by these orcas is horrific. But you also do get an appreciation for the orcas as well as hunters. You really feel like they've put a lot of effort in. So that, I think, is something this series does. It does show you hunts that you've seen a lot since and before, but it actually does maybe show you this side of the predators that they're making the effort to take down these prey. So you kind of respect them a little bit more instead of just going, oh, they're horrible for killing the whale. As you do get a lot now, you do kind of feel like, they've earned it in a way. And it just was a really good sequence. Again, I feel like it was probably hard to watch when they were actually filming that. And yeah, I feel like it's just a great sequence. So that is my top 10 list for Blue Planet. What were your thoughts? Did you agree with my list? Did you think there's things I missed off? Let me know in the comments below if there's anything you think should have made it, or anything you think I was just completely wrong about. Maybe you absolutely hated the Orca sequences because they were so horrible. Who knows? So yeah, this is the last video I'll be doing about Blue Planet. So let me know what you want me to talk about next. I'm open to pretty much any suggestion as long as I can access it in some way. So yeah, I'll see you next week for whatever I'll be doing. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe as ever. If you don't want to, that's fine. But if you do, then it's great. Yeah, see you next week for whatever, and goodbye.